So hi, I'm James Frisbie, a former College of the Siskiyous baseball coach. I started out coaching here in 1996, 97. My brother Tim has been a football coach here for 30-something years. So basically, I grew up in Medford, Oregon, is where my earliest memory of being a kid. So everybody always asks me, so James, when did you really learn how to play baseball? When did you fall in love with baseball? And I can't answer that because all I remember is always having a ball in my hand and swinging the bat. And where I was blessed is I had older siblings, and I had a dad that cared so much about us. Growing up, athletics was always a part of what we did. So I was very blessed at a young age to experience people that cared about you, and I gravitated to it. Like I loved it. It was just in me. I wanted to be a baseball player my whole life. Didn't know how far I would go, but I really can tell you this. Like I started playing baseball right-handed because nobody knew I was left-handed until finally I was like 5 and shagging fly balls with my brothers, but I would take my glove off and throw with my left hand. So then they're like, oh, he's left-handed. And so after that, I got my first left-handed glove when I was 6. Being left-handed, I had some skills. Fortunately, not saying I was the best, but I was okay enough to kind of keep going and progressing. And even through some setbacks, it was a special thing. So when I graduated from high school, it was Kent Meridian High School in Kent, Washington. There wasn't a lot of Our particular high school didn't turn out a lot of really good athletes at the time. I followed my other brother, Scotty, down to Abilene Christian University, and I played there for 3 years, learned so much about pitching, and then I had rotator cuff surgery. Just was one of those things where it was kind of a freak accident, tore my rotator cuff, and tried to come back the next year, but I just I couldn't do it. Basically, it came down to the fact where I was brutally honest with my coach and said, I can't pitch for you right now. I'm not healthy, so I'm going to go home and figure out what's going on. And then about that point is when Siskiyous came into my life through Tim, my brother, and Vince, and then it just kind of like got my desire back to where, look, I'm getting, all of a sudden I figured out what was wrong with me. My arm started getting better, and I was still a little ways away, but at least I could start the process of getting well. And being with the kids every day though was an amazing experience because they motivated me because I wanted to be out there playing somewhere again, and I enjoyed working with them, and it was so refreshing to be around the kids. And the biggest thing, the reward that I have is being able to just watch a kid get better and better. Not just baseball. It's not, because not everybody's going to play in the major leagues. Not everybody's going to play professional ball. That's not what it's really all about. It's about setting a foundation for kids where they get better in the classroom, they become better people. When they leave Siskiyous and they go on to their next journey, people that see them will realize they were taught well. We just want them to be productive. And that was always kind of my mission here. So when I was here at Siskiyous, when I first started playing professional baseball, it was back in the spring summer of '98. So I played 4 years in a league called the Texas Louisiana League. It was our team was located in Alexandria, Louisiana. So I pitched actually for them for 4 seasons. And I didn't, after all the setbacks, injury, sickness-wise, I didn't start playing until I was 24. And at the time when I was doing it, I was realizing, okay, I lost my window to probably be a big league pitcher, but I love competing. And I got 4 years of competing that I never thought I would get. I loved every day I did it, but I also knew in the back of my mind, there's going to come a point where I'm not going to get a chance to pitch in the big leagues. So what's my next step? Like what can I do to stay in the game? And I would kind of always, my thought would always kind of go back to, well, when I'm at Siskiyous, I really enjoy my time there coaching. Like, I enjoy working with kids. Like, I get a lot of satisfaction out of that. And so the next year, one of my ex-managers got a job down in South Texas, in Harlingen, Texas. It was the same league, but he was like, hey, we'd like to have you come in and throw out of the bullpen, and I've got some other things in mind for you, but we'll go over that when you get down here. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do it. Because I was like, yeah, I'll play one more year. Well, I get down there, and he doesn't have a pitching coach. He doesn't have a third base coach. Nobody can throw batting practice. So basically what this guy was doing without telling me, he was basically transitioning me into being his pitching coach and third base coach. And I'll never forget, like, we were close to opening day, and he took me out for dinner and was kind of smooth talking to me and stuff. And he said, well, what would you think about just coaching? And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah. I mean, if that's what you need, if that's what's better for the ball club, I'll do it. And so I figured I could do more for the ball club, being the pitching coach, coaching third base, throwing BP to the guys. And so it was an outstanding experience. And then once I started doing that, I realized, I kind of like this. And so then I just got into full coaching and managing at that level. And so I would do that all summer, and then I'd come back here. And it was really cool because I could interject a lot of the professional stuff that I would see, some of the really good players that had been around a long time in the game, coaches, managers that had been around, a lot of ex-major league guys that I would run into and become lifelong friends with. But I was able to take that and interject a lot of information to these kids. My career went from being just a pitching coach to managing. And then I realized when I started managing, I really enjoyed it. And so again, I would manage a club, and I'd come back here and be Coach Neal's assistant and just really enjoy my time. And then as time got on, I looked back, and all of a sudden I was on my 23rd year of independent baseball, managing and coaching at every independent league you could coach or manage in: Frontier League, American Association, and Atlantic League. And I had the good fortune of being a pitching coach and manager in all those leagues. And so I learned a lot. And what I learned is it's trial and error, and you don't know as much as you think you do. And every day you're out there, you learn something new. So as my journey continued in independent ball for many years, 2020, I got a really outstanding job managing the Lincoln Salt Dogs in the American Association. Little did we know at the time that COVID would hit. And so when COVID hit, it took out our ability to play that summer. So I sat at home for the whole summer at home in Spokane with my mom and dad and sister and brother-in-law. And COVID was terrible. It was a brutal time in our country. I still feel like we're kind of coming out of it in many ways. But the benefit was I got to spend the whole summer with my mother and father, and I haven't been able to do that my whole career. And so I wouldn't trade that experience for anything, because they've been my two biggest mentors in life and my two heroes. And so as they've gotten older, like, that was a special, I would say COVID was special to me because of that. And that's the one thing I'll always remember about COVID, was time with them. So the next year, 2021, I was going to go back and rebuild the team again, was ready to go. And I was at a camp in Palm Springs, being a pitching coordinator. It was like a free agent tryout camp for about 5 weeks. I got back home, and then I get this, out of the blue, I get this phone call from the Detroit Tigers. And they happened to need a left-handed BP thrower on their major league club. And they'd heard a little bit about me from some contacts. And so they said, hey, would you be willing to come out here and just give it a look, see what you think, we want to see you. And I said, yeah. So they go, well, how soon are you going to need a week to get ready? I said, I can do some laundry. I'll be on a plane at 5 a.m. tomorrow. And so I flew out the next morning when I got home from my winter league, and I had to quarantine for 3 days because they still had the COVID stuff. And then I went out and I threw all of spring training, and about 2 weeks into it, our assistant GM, a great guy by the name of David Chad, told me, hey, you're our guy. We just got to get everything, background checks, drug tests, all the things that, there's a lot of hoops you have to go to get a major league job. So anyways, I got hired by them. I resigned from my job in independent ball, and I had 2 really fun years with the Detroit Tigers. And my job basically was throwing left-handed BP, helping out infielders, outfielders every day in pregame, and I was in the cage during the game getting guys loose that weren't in the lineup, but those guys hit all the time in the major leagues. So I was kind of one of those guys that nobody knows about except the players do, and that's always been like the most important thing. Is I don't have to be seen or anything like that. I just enjoy the camaraderie with the players. And so I was with AJ Hinch and the Tigers for 2 years. It was a wonderful opportunity. AJ was a World Series manager. I learned a lot from him, good man. But at the end of the day, at the end of the 2022 season, he called me up right before Thanksgiving last year and said, I love you to death, but we just don't got room for you. We're doing an analytical thing, and we're adding, they let a lot of guys go, and he said, we just don't got room. And I said, hey man, thank you. I said, I understand. Like, you gave me 2 years that I never thought I'd have in the big leagues. So it was like, okay, I'll go back. So I went back to independent ball, took a managing job last season, and then pretty much the same scenario happened. I was down in the Winter League being the pitching coordinator, and the Washington Nationals called me. I drove across country for 4 days. It was not a guarantee that I was gonna be hired. So I drove, and I spent 2 days there throwing, and they offered me a contract. It was a great experience last year because I'm one of the few guys that have got a chance to do what I do, throw left-hand BP, work with infielders, hit fungos in pregame every day, and in parks like Yankee Stadium or Dodger Stadium or whatever. I mean, I've been so blessed. It's been a long journey. It took a long time. I wasn't good enough to pitch in the big leagues. But what I had is I had a desire, I had commitment, I had a lot of sacrifice. I persevered. I went through some setbacks. I went through a lot of people that told me I'd never make it, and I always used it for fuel for my fire to keep going and going. And every day I always feel like when I'm out there with big league guys, I always feel like I'm fighting for my job every day. And it's the same thing that I had always told these kids at Siskiyous. There's always somebody that wants your job. And there's a lot of guys that would like my job. It's not glamorous, but it's still the big leagues. It's fun. And I worked hard to get there, and I try every day to stay there. And so, I think that's a thing that you can pass on to your kids, athletes, your students, whatever it is you just want them to make sure that and understand, like, every day's a gift. Number one that comes to my mind would be gratitude. Just the appreciation for all these people here that gave me a chance. The mentors I've had, number one, my brother Tim, getting me here and being so generous with his time, his openness. I mean, I lived with Tim for so many years when I was here. He's been so just inspirational, instrumental to my whole career. I could never thank my brother Tim enough. Like a lot with the rest of my family, but him being here for so long, I mean, it's been so special. And Coach Neal, Coach Roberts, being around Coach Gatlin when he was the football coach. I mean, all these guys, Charlie Roach, being gracious to have me come back and be able to hang out on campus and talk to the teams. Coach Tevin now, the head baseball coach, being, having me come out and just talking to the guys a little bit and realizing that, I'm a Siskiyous guy. I might work for a big league club, but I'm a Siskiyous guy. I always will be and always have been. And then, when I got here, like I said, when I was a player, I was very quiet, did my job, but never ever thought I'd ever coach. And when I came here and started to be around this atmosphere and saw everything that Siskiyous could offer not only a player, athlete, but just academically, a student. And it's a special place because there's not a lot of people that come here, because it's like the smallest enrollment, I think, in the state of California. At the time it was. But the thing about it was such a great community of people, from the instructors to the coaches. We all got along really well. And I got my start here coaching. And the cool thing is my oldest brother Tim played football here right out of high school. So we would spend Friday night driving all the way down here to watch Timmy play on Saturdays. And I fell in love with the place. And I idolized, my brothers so much. And when I would watch Siskiyous play, it was like, at 9 or 10 years old, it was like I thought I was watching guys in the NFL. And then you had Coach Gatlin, Coach Moss, and Coach Roberts were out there, and it's just, I love the way they coached. And it was always like just ingrained to me, like Siskiyous was a part of the family and the atmosphere. Like we always talked about Siskiyous, and every time we came here, it was a family thing. We loved it here.